What's going on, guys? My name is Brandon. Welcome to Audio Addiction, where you can find latest album reviews. You can find our band interviews, and you find live coverage of the concerts that we get. We will be posting videos of both Strawberry Girls and Belly Noir, so make sure to check back with the channel if you enjoy either of those bands. I also posted an album review along with this one for Yvette Young's new acoustic EP, so definitely check that one out if you're interested in that. And I'll also be posting a bunch of interviews over this week as per usual, so definitely check back with the channel for that. So thank you for checking it out. If you like what you see, definitely hit the subscribe button and make sure to hit that like button as well. Thank you for the support as well. It really does mean a lot. I really can't do any of this without you guys, so thank you guys for checking it out, and I hope you enjoy the review. So tonight we're going to be talking about the True Blues' new record, Other Summer.
Everything has been so hectic. This the only thing that makes me feel connected, and I'll admit it's not what anyone expected. I'm not trying to.
So if you're unfamiliar with this band, they used to be known as Alive and Standby. They were one of my favorite bands. They still are one of my favorite bands. Obviously, they've changed up styles. So it was interesting to first listen to this record and hear the kind of change of pace. But you can still hear a lot of influence that they drew from Alive and Standby. I feel like they really kind of haven't lost it. They just changed paths, which isn't a bad thing. So to me, I feel like if you do like them, I still feel like you'll like this record. And for people who, don't know about them, they're definitely a band to check out if you haven't. I really feel like, to me, they're just this kind of like underrated band right now. So I hope that more people will check them out, more people will like what they do, because I really think it's solid stuff. So we're going to move into the first track. It is called Pacific Time. It is an intro sort of track. It has this cool sort of electronic sort of synthy intro part. I feel like this track definitely has, in particular, to a lot of other sort of intro tracks, it has a lot of depth. It has a lot of atmosphere to it, which I like. I appreciate that. I love hearing kind of the story through different sounds. In the music, you can kind of get an idea of, the naturalness of this album. And I definitely feel like, again, it has this sort of atmosphere to it that I feel like people will get drawn in by. They added a really nice touch by adding vocals into it, and just how it leads very well into High, the next track off the record. And to me, I feel like, again, it was really solidly executed, and that's why I enjoyed it. So we're going to move into track number 2, which, like I mentioned, is High. Interesting sort of pitched vocals that kind of carried throughout the rest of the track. I think stylistically it was definitely an interesting choice on their behalf. I'm not saying whether it was good or bad. I just think it's interesting nonetheless. Really liking the instrumentation of this track. It just has this sort of cool sort of aesthetic to it. Very reminiscent of like a lot of these, I wouldn't say a lot of the bands, but bands like the 1975 come to mind when I think about this. It has that sort of alternative sort of indie feel to it, which I think is awesome. It also has that sort of R&B sort of soul vibe to it, and I feel like, to me, it has this sort of pairing between R&B and soul, and sort of like indie electro pop, like alternative sort of music in terms of instrumentals. This one has definitely this sort of catchy, summery sort of vibe. Perfect track, I think, for the summer. I've always been a fan of Chris's vocals, but I feel like, to me, he's a little bit more reserved in this track. That's why it doesn't grab me as much. I know he definitely has great vocals, and there's some tracks on here where he does an awesome job, but to me, I feel like this one's a little bit reserved, and I feel like this one musically speaks a little bit more than vocally. So I feel like obviously this is the first track, but I feel like they kind of figured that out, with an oncoming track. So in my opinion, I feel like if the vocals kind of had the more stronger aesthetic to them, I feel like this one would definitely be in some of my favorite tracks off this record so far. So we're going to move into track number 3, which is O.O.C. This was one of the singles that they released. I don't know if it was the first one, but it was definitely one of the singles. It's one of my favorite tracks off the record as well. Really liking the instrumentals again. I feel like they captured that sort of R&B, new R&B kind of soul, sort of indie vibe to it, which I like a lot. I feel like this one track in particular reminds me a lot of Black Bear. If Black Bear had kind of like a band to back him up instead of like electronic parts, in my opinion. I also enjoy the sort of smoothness and fluidity of this track. It really has some great parts that remind me a lot of their previous work, which I still think is really solid. If you haven't checked out their older stuff in Alive by Standby, I definitely think that you should check it out. This one definitely leans more towards the sort of R&B and soul side of music, but it even has that sort of bit of blues a little bit in terms of just vocally and just how the song feels. It feels a little bit sad in some parts. Maybe blues isn't the right word to describe it. I'd say more like emo-ish. Not really like sad, sad, but definitely has that sort of sad tinge to it, which I really enjoy, and I feel like to me captures what they're going for and kind of the style that they're going for as well. So we're gonna move into track number 4, which is Sleepless. This one is another single and is another one of my favorites. Really liking this track a lot. This track reminds me a lot of like late night drives. I definitely feel like it's a track or an album that you can put on at like when you're driving around cruising, as just this sort of smooth aesthetic that I feel like is pleasing when you're listening to it on the road. I really liking the chorusy guitar lead that backs up the sort of jazzier chords on the synth. I think that's really solid. Again, they have that sort of R&B soul aspect to their music, so I feel like they've encapsulated that. I can see this type of music definitely getting popular with bands like Eternity Forever. Chon even has a little bit of that sort of stuff in it. My homie Andres definitely has that sort of like jazzy sort of vibe to it, which I really enjoy. I'm not trying to knock it at all. I definitely enjoy that sort of vibe. So to me, keep it coming with that. Vocally, this is reminiscent of bands like and artists like Drake, The Weeknd, even a little bit of Tyler Carter I can hear there, which I really enjoy. And I also feel like the music kind of doesn't overcrowd everything. The vocals kind of speak out for themselves, and the instrumentals kind of just add that, fullness to the track that you expect. So to me, this one is another solid one that I feel like you should check out. All right, so we'll move into track number 5, which is Ironic. Really liking the sort of soft piano intro. I think it's a nice, cool kind of switch up. It just sounds really eloquent, and I just feel like it has this sort of great quality to it. And I definitely feel like it's a nice touch to this track. Musically, it's in the same vein or has that sort of flair of the 1975 to it. More particular, in more than a lot of the other tracks. I would say that this one has this sort of black sheep appeal to it. And what I mean by that is that it's definitely one of those more experimental tracks that I feel like people either like or they don't like. I personally do like it. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites, but I do like the vibe that they're going for with this one. I also like that the bass is a little bit more prominent in the sort of verses and things of that nature. It's not kind of in the foreground of the track. I feel like it just fits very well. Another great performance from Chris in particular in this track. This one has again a bit of a flavor of their older music. I would say a little less, but it definitely has that sort of vibe to it. So we're gonna move into track number 6, which is Fine Line. This one is, I think this is the most recent single. I may be wrong. They released a lot of singles or off this record so far, but this one's definitely one of my favorites. I'm really liking just the cooler sort of vocal intro with this sort of weird vocal effects on this track. I think that's what really caught me. Liking this sort of dreamy, ambient sort of guitar tone that kind of carries throughout the track, and it just adds this sort of etherealness to the track. This one, again, has a sort of R&B-esque flair to it. I would say more so than a lot of the other tracks on this record. So if you're looking for more of a four-fronted R&B soul vibe, I would say go check this one out. Vocally, I definitely think that this one is another solid one from Chris. Probably one of my favorites as well. I would say he definitely channeled his sort of inner Weekend, in my opinion, And again, one of my favorite tracks, and I would say this one's easily the best one off the record so far. I really think that they created this great sort of music landscape, and it just fits very well with what they're going for. I would say that if they continued in this direction with this sort of track, I feel like I would really enjoy what they're going to be putting out next. So, thumbs up to you guys. So, we're going to move it into track number 7, which is No Answer. I'm really liking this sort of cool organ intro in this track, with some of that sort of realistic effects, like, I guess like ground scraping and like just things moving, and you could hear people in the background and stuff like that. I like that sort of naturalness of that track. The chorus is just super damn catchy, which I appreciate. I'm loving all these sort of additional layers on this track as well. Things like tambourines, bongos. I'm loving the bridge. I'm also liking the choice of melody in this track in particular. There's this really nice, sort of tasteful guitar solo in this track, which I feel like adds just another layer of depth to this one. And I definitely feel like the music has those vibes and just makes you want to kind of move and sway and just kind of just vibe out. I would say this one is another great sort of vibey track. I would say this one's on the borderline between of my favorite tracks. Maybe I hadn't listened to enough. It hasn't grown on me too much, but I think it's a solid track nonetheless, and I think it's one that you should check out as well. So we're going to move into the last track, track number 8, which is At All. This one is probably another single that they released. Again, I don't know the sort of ones came out first and all that stuff, but they're a single. But I definitely enjoy the structure of this track. I think it's just balanced with the vocals, the synths, the guitars, the drums, the bass, everything. I think it fits very well together. I would say this one is probably the most. I would say it's probably the most congealed song together. I feel like everything fits very well. Again, like I've been mentioning, I think it's just structure wise, it's really solid. This one is definitely a bit of a slower song, and sort of a softer song. So if you're into that sort of stuff, I feel like this one is kind of right up your alley. The flow is really nice, and I feel like the instrumentals kind of match that sort of like easygoing, sort of smooth flow to it. Vocally, I feel like they did a bit of experimenting, especially Chris, but nothing crazy. But I feel like they did a little bit different to kind of separate the tracks, and I think it's definitely a reserved way to end the track off, and end the record off. I definitely feel like they could have went out with a little bit more punch to their tracks, but nonetheless, I think it's really solid. So, some pros and cons. I feel like there's some little mishaps here and there, nothing too crazy to kind of derail the record, but I definitely feel like there was a little bit of rough patches. I would say in particular, like I mentioned, At All. I feel like they were a little bit more reserved in this track, and I would say to me, like in some parts in High, I wasn't really feeling too much. But overall, I really like kind of the middle meat of this record. I definitely feel like if you're a fan of the band, you should go check it out. I feel like if they kind of patch up those tracks, I feel like they'll definitely be a solid contender for like new bands in my opinion. It's definitely one of those bands that I'm interested to see what they do next, and see what they're gonna be doing for next records and things of that nature. So my overall rating for the True Blues Other Summer, I'm gonna be giving it a 9.0 out of 10. I think it's a solid effort from them. I think it's cool that they're doing kind of a rebrand of what they know and what they're doing. I definitely feel like you should check them out if you are a fan of Alive in Fiction, or not Alive in Fiction, shit. Alive in Standby. I don't know why I said that, but I guess because I was thinking of a different band. But definitely check them out. They really have done a really stand up job on this record. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm excited to see what they do in the future. So let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on this record. Did you like it? Did you didn't like it? I certainly would like to know and have a conversation about it. I'm curious to see what other people's thoughts are on it. So let me know. So if you enjoy what we do, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, make sure to hit that like button as well. If you enjoy us a lot, we have a link to our merch store in the description. So if you'd like to pick something up, that'd be greatly appreciated. And thank you for your support. So my name is Brandon. We hope you got your fix, and we'll be talking with you soon. Peace. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Of course, if you enjoy what we do, make sure to go check out the other series we do. We do album reviews, we do band interviews, and we do live videos, so definitely go check that out. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps out our channel, helps us grow. Make sure to hit that like button as well. Go follow us on social media. That's all down below. We try to keep that as updated as possible. We also made a new website where we'll be posting photos of upcoming concerts and stuff like that, which you can go check out at audioaddictionmedia.com and come get your fix with us, guys. Talk to you later. Deuces.